There we go. It was a baddie commander. Crystal Kitten, welcome to the stream. Let me get to live chat here. Shit, there we go. Just fucking up. We're just gonna close that. We don't need no Discord going off right now. There's my notification that I'm live. Go ahead, click play. Go ahead, go countdown. Go ahead, go over to music.
You a Jerome, not a Tesla, it's haram. I got 46 cars, and you brokies have not. I'm cool, I have friends, and many of women. Everybody knows I'm top, and I also box. My money replaces itself when I spend it. I'm inside your head and my dick's inside your bitch. I'm an expert playing chess and I did Jan 6. I win so many fights, I win 3rd place. The world, water, and space are my inventions, while all you brokies will hate and spend your pensions. Your girlfriend and mates are in my mentions, sending me nudes and dessert cakes. Now the feminist dudes say that I stole some gals. They caught me cause of pizza. Now I'm locked in jail here in Romania. A, B, C, D, E, top G, let me free. We're a failed society. This was planted on me. What color's your Bugatti? Top groom, alpha dog. I conceived me with me mom. Everybody wants my cars. You just all need God. I run a mile in 5 minutes. A, B, C, D, E, top G. You wish you could be like me for my status, except that we're not the same, you're in the Matrix. I thought Romania's way less hard on rapists. Why am I in jail now doing gay shits? I'm the king, most googled man that ever was. A targeted man of color. We should all try to be a bit more like R. A, B, C, E, D, top G, let me free. You're all jealous of me. I'm the principal and dean at Hustlers University. Top group, alpha dog, I can see through the fog. Though the matrix is strong, it's no match for my dong. I'm gonna run to Moldova. A, B, G, E, D, top G. I got the funds to buy Iran. A, B, C, D, E, top G. Let me free, we're a failed society. This was planted on me. What color's your Bugatti? Top groom, alpha dog. Allah help me from this strong 700-pound guy. Wants to make me his wife.
Goddamn.
Let me be clear.
Ali. Ali.
RITEOFWorld.com.
God damn it. Now the 20 seconds of awkward silence. Except for me talking. That's the downside to this one song. I need to download it and cut all that extra crap out. But it's not my song to alter and edit. It belongs to somebody else. So there we have the struggle. Oh yo! Oh yo! What is up, everybody? It's Chaos for You 728, and I'm back one more again. Making up for last week, we're going to try and read 2 chapters out of this book. Got Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. We left off on, oh, that's a wrong goddamn mouse. Left off, we read chapter 1, which covers the apprentice. And now we're on chapter 2, the fellowcraft. And each one's gonna progressively get a little bit more interesting. So I'm gonna sit back. It's a little pot o'clock. That's right. He's smoking that ganja again. He's God damn it, I forgot the words. There you go.
Smoking more weed. Look at him. That's why his eyes are getting so fucking bloodshot. Stop smoking. Get off the reefer, dude.
God damn. Actually, the appropriate word would be, we are here to listen to you read. Oh, shit. Thinking of, I need to swap this. Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Burns so good. Oh, fuck yeah. I need to find. Ooh. This isn't gaming. It's education. Say lecture. Guess that would be the appropriate way to put it. It'd be a lecture. Because I'm reading. Well, it's not really a lecture. They don't have no. We'll just go with other. There we go. Gotta make sure this shit's properly categorized too. Otherwise it yeah. I don't know if it fucks up the algorithms, but we gotta take one more hit. Then we're gonna get into chapter 2, the fellowcraft. Get up, everybody's having a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're from. Thank you to those that are still subscribed to continue support. It's been greatly appreciated. And thank you to those just recently subscribed. Do hope you stick around for the long run. If you're new to the channel, this is something I do on Sundays. Got some heavy, I call it heavy reading, because some of this shit makes your brain think, and it makes, and you know, that's what I like to do. I like to make people think for themselves instead of have people think for them, which it's not a good way to live your life. Let's do this. Pot o'clock. Drink up, y'alls. All right. Fuck yeah. I do my damnedest to make it through this. Oh boy, it's a lot of reading. Especially this chapter. It's like 15, 20 pages. Alright. Chapter 2, the fellowcraft. In the ancient Orient, all religion was more or less a mystery, and there was no divorce from it or philosophy. The popular theology, taking the multitude of allegories and symbols for realities, degenerated into a worship of the celestial luminaries, of imaginary deities with human feelings, passions, appetites, and lusts, of idols, stones, animals, reptiles. The onion was sacred to the Egyptians because its different layers were a symbol of the concentric heavenly sphere. Of course, popular religion could not satisfy the deeper longings and thoughts, the loftier aspirations of the spirit, or the logic of reason. The first, therefore, was taught to the initiated in the mysteries. There also, it was taught by symbols. The vagueness of symbolism capable of many interpretations, reached what the palpable and conventional creed could not. Its indefiniteness acknowledged the abstruseness, god damn these big words, of the subject. It treated the mysterious subject mystically. It endeavored to illustrate what it could not explain, to excite an appropriate feeling, if it could not develop an adequate idea, and to make the image a mere subordinate conveyance for the conception, which itself never became obvious or familiar. Thus, the knowledge now imparted by books and letters was of old conveyed by symbols, and the priests invented or perpetuated a display of rites and exhibitions which were not only more attractive to the eye than words, but often more suggestive and more pregnant with meaning to the mind. Masonry, successor of the mysteries, still follows the ancient manner of teaching. Her ceremonies are like the ancient mystic shows, not the reading of an essay, but the opening of a problem, requiring research and constituting philosophy the art expounder. Her symbols are the instruction she gives. The lectures are endeavors, often partial and one-sided, to interpret these symbols. He who would become an accomplished Mason must not be content merely to hear or even to understand the lectures. He must, aided by them, and they having, as it were, marked out the way for him, study, interpret, and develop these symbols for himself. Though Masonry is identical with the ancient mysteries, it is also only in this qualified sense that it presents but an imperfect image of their brilliancy, the ruins only of their grandeur, and a system that has experienced progressive alterations, the fruits of social events, political circumstances, and the imbecility of its improvers. After leaving Egypt, the mysteries were modified by the habits of the different nations among whom they were introduced, and especially by the religious systems of the countries into which they were transplanted. To maintain the established government, laws, and religion was the obligation of the initiate everywhere, and everywhere they were the heritage of the priests, who were nowhere willing to make it the common people co-proprietors with themselves of philosophical truth. Hey, what's up, Raisin? Mr. Hemi Full Speed. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. Masonry is not the Colosseum in ruins. It is rather a Roman palace of the Middle Ages, disfigured by modern architectural improvements, yet built on a cyclopean foundation laid by the Etruscans, and with many a stone of the superstructure taken from dwellings and temples of the age of Hadrian and Antoninus. That's some fucked off names back then. Goddamn. This is Albert Pike's definitive works on the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So yes, it's not the it's an annotated, but it's of Albert Pike's work. Yes, and we're gonna read this, and then after reading this, we're gonna do the naked communist, the naked socialist, and the naked capitalist. And then I'm going to try and find a way Unless y'all just want to sit there and stare at the screen while I talk. I mean, I don't know if I could really find anything to play while I'm reading. That's the thing. I've got some books, some paperbacks that I would like to delve into as well. But that'll come at a later time. Alright, continuing. Christianity taught the doctrine of fraternity, but repudiated that of political equality by continually inculcating obedience to Caesar and to those lawfully in authority. Masonry was the first apostle of equality. In the monastery, there is fraternity and equality, but no liberty. Masonry added that also, and claimed for man the threefold heritage: liberty, equality, and fraternity. This is a disgusting word. Because nobody's equal. That'll never happen. We'll never be equal as long as there's class systems. It was but a development of the original purpose of the mysteries, which was to teach men to know and practice their duties to themselves and their fellows, the great practical end of all philosophy and all knowledge. Yeah, Scottish tankery. It was but... wait, I already read that. Truths are the springs from which duties flow. And it is but a few hundred years since a new truth began to be distinctly seen. The man is supreme over institutions, and not they over him. Man has natural empire over all institutions. They are for him according to his development, not he for them. This seems to us a very simple statement, one to which all men everywhere ought to assent. But once it was a great new truth, not revealed until governments had been in existence for at least 5,000 years. Once revealed, it imposed new duties on men. Man owed it to himself to be free. He owed it to his country to seek to give her freedom or maintain her in that possession. It made tyranny and usurpation the enemies of the human race. It created a general outlawry of despots and despotisms, temporal and spiritual. The sphere of duty was immensely enlarged. Patriotism had henceforth a new and wider meaning. Free government, free thought, free conscience, free speech. All these came to be inalienable rights, which those who had parted with them or been robbed of them, or whose ancestors had lost them, have the right summarily to retake. Unfortunately, as truths always become perverted into falsehoods, and our falsehoods, when misapplied, this truth became the gospel of anarchy, soon after it was first preached. Masonry early comprehended this truth and recognized its own enlarged duties. Its symbols then came to have a wider meaning, but it also assumed the mask of stone masonry and borrowed its working tools, and so was supplied with new and apt symbols. It aided in bringing about the French Revolution, disappeared with the Girondists, was born again with the restoration of order, and sustained Napoleon. Because, though your emperor, he acknowledged the right of the people to select its rulers, and was at the head of a nation refusing to receive back its old kings. He pleaded with saber, musket, and cannon the great cause of the people against royalty, the right of the French people even to make a Corsican general their emperor, if it pleased them. Saw movement in the chat. Oh, yo, what's up, R.O.? Welcome to the stream. How you doing, sir? Masonry felt that this truth had the omnipotence of God on its side, and that neither pope nor potentate could overcome it. It was a truth dropped into the world's wide treasury, and forming a part of the heritage which each generation receives, enlarges, and holds in trust, and of necessity bequeaths to mankind. The personal estate of man entailed of nature to the end of time. And Masonry early recognized it as true, that to set forth and develop a truth, or any human excellence of gift or growth, is to make greater the spiritual glory of the race, that whosoever aids the march of a truth, and make the thought a thing, writes in the same line who Moses, and with him who died upon the cross, and has an intellectual sympathy with the deity himself. Hey, what's up, Tom Laundry? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well, sir. The best gift we can bestow on man is manhood. It is that which Masonry is ordained of God to bestow on its votaries, not sectarianism and religious dogma, not a rudimentary morality that may be found in the writings of Confucius, Zoroaster, Seneca, and the rabbis in the proverbs of Ecclesiastes. Not a little and cheap common school knowledge, but manhood and science and philosophy. Not that philosophy or science is in opposition to religion, for philosophy is but that knowledge of God and the soul, which is derived from observation of the manifested action of God and the soul, and from a wise analogy. It is the intellectual guide which the religious sentiment needs. The true religious philosophy of an imperfect being is not a system of creed, but, as Socrates thought, an infinite search or approximation. Philosophy is that intellectual and moral progress which the religious sentiment inspires and ennobles. As to science, it cannot walk alone. While religion was stationary, it consists of those matured inferences from experience which all other experience confirms. It realizes and unites all that was truly valuable in both the old schemes of mediation, one heroic, or the system of action and effort, and the mystical theory of spiritual contemplative communion. Listen to me, says Galen, as to the voice of the Eleusinian Hierophant, and believe that the study of nature is a mystery no less important than theirs, nor less adapted to display the wisdom and power of the great Creator. Their lessons and demonstrations were obscure, but ours are clear and unmistakable. We deem that to be the best knowledge we can obtain of the soul of another man, which is furnished by his actions and his lifelong conduct. Evidence to the contrary supplied by what another man informs us that this soul has said to his would weigh little against the former. The first scriptures for the human race were written by God on the earth and heavens. The reading of these scriptures is science. Familiarity with the grass and trees, the insects, and the infusoria teaches us deeper lessons of love and faith than we can glean from the writings of Fenelon and Augustine. The great Bible of God is ever open before mankind. Knowledge is convertible into power, and axioms into rules of utility and duty. But knowledge itself is not power. Wisdom is power, and her prime minister is justice, which is the perfected law of truth. The purpose, therefore, of education and science is to make a man wise. If knowledge does not make him so, it is wasted, like water poured on the sand. To know the formulas of masonry is of as little value by itself as to know so many words and sentences in some barbarous African or Australian dialect. To know even the meaning of the symbols is but little unless that adds to our wisdom, and also to our charity, which is to justice like one hemisphere of the brain to the other. Do not lose sight, then, of the true object of your studies in masonry. It is to add to your estate of wisdom, and not merely to your knowledge. A man may spend a lifetime in studying a single specialty of knowledge, botany, conchology, or etymology, for instance, and committing to memory names derived from the Greek, and classifying and reclassifying, and yet be no wiser than when he began. It is the great truths as to all that most concerns a man, as to his rights, interests, and duties, that masonry seeks to teach her initiates. I have not. Tom, Raisin. Get back here later. We're gonna do a quick pause. 2 o'clock. Chaos needs a little tokey toke. Excuse me. All right. Oops. The wiser a man becomes, the less will he be inclined to submit tamely to the imposition of fetters or a yoke on his conscience or his person. For by increase of wisdom, he not only better knows his rights, but the more highly values them, and is more conscious of his worth and dignity. His pride then urges him to assert his independence. He becomes better able to assert it also, and better able to assist others or his country, when they or she stake all, even existence, upon the same assertion. But mere knowledge makes no one independent, nor fits him to be free. It often only makes him a more useful slave. Liberty is a curse to the ignorant and brutal. Political science has for its object to ascertain in what manner and by means of what institutions political personal freedom may be secured and perpetuated, not license or the mere right of every man to vote, but entire absolute freedom of thought and opinion, alike free of the despotism of monarch and mob and prelate, freedom of action within the limits of the general law enacted for all, the courts of justice with impartial judges and juries open to all alike, weakness and poverty equally potent in those courts as power and wealth, the avenues of office and honor open alike to all the worthy, the military powers in war or peace, in strict subordination to the civil power, arbitrary arrests for acts not known to the law as crimes, imposable Romish inquisitions, star chambers, military commissions unknown. The means of instruction within reach of the children of all, the right of free speech and accountability of all public officers, civil and military. If Masonry needed to be justified for imposing political as well as moral duties on its initiates, it would be enough to point to that sad history of the world. It would not even need that she should turn back the pages of history to the chapters rewritten by Tacitus, that she should recite the incredible horrors of despotism under Caligula and Domitian, Caracalla and Commodus, Vitellius and Maximian. She need only point to the centuries of calamity through which the gay French nation passed, to the long oppression of the feudal ages, of the selfish Bourbon kings, to those times when the peasants were robbed and slaughtered by their own lords and princes, like sheep when the Lord claimed the first fruits of the peasant's marriage bed, when the captured city was given up to merciless rape and massacre, when the state prisons groaned with innocent victims, and the church blessed the banners of pitiless murderers and sang Te Deums for the crowning mercy of the eve of St. Bartholomew. Hey, what's up, Oaken Steel? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well, sir. We might turn over the pages to a later chapter, that of the reign of the 15th Louis, when young girls, hardly more than children, were kidnapped to serve his lust, when letters de cachet filled the Bastille with persons accused of no crime, with husbands who were in the way of the pleasures of lascivious. I can't say that word because I don't know how it's pronounced. Lascivious wives, and of villains wearing orders of nobility, when the people were ground between the upper and the nether milestone of taxes, customs, and excises, and when me popes Nuncio and the Cardinal de la Rocheaman devotedly kneeling, one on each side of Madame du Barry, the king's abandoned prostitute put the slippers on her naked feet as she rose from the adulterous bed. Then indeed suffering the toil were the two forms of man, and the people were but beasts of burden. The true Mason is he who labors strenuously to help his order effect its great purposes. Not that the order can effect them by itself, but that it too can help. It also is one of God's instruments. It is a force and a power, and shame upon it if it did not exert itself, and if need be, sacrifice its children in the cause of humanity. As Abraham was ready to offer up Isaac on the altar of sacrifice, it will not forget that noble allegory of courteous leaping, all in armor, into the great yawning gulf that opened to swallow Rome. It will try. It shall not be its fault if the day never comes when man will no longer have to fear a conquest, an invasion, a usurpation, a rivalry of nations with the armed hand, an interruption of civilization depending on a marriage royal or a birth in the hereditary tyrannies, a partition of the peoples by a congress, a dismemberment by the downfall of a dynasty, a combat of two religions meeting head to head like two goats of darkness on the bridge of the infinite. When they will no longer have to fear famine, spoliation, prostitution from distress, misery from lack of work, and all the brigandages of chance in the forest of events. When nations will gravitate about the truth like stars about the light, each in its own orbit without clashing or collision, and everywhere freedom, cinctured with stars, crowned with the celestial splendor, and with wisdom and justice on either hand, will reign supreme. In your studies as a fellow craft, you must be guided by reason, love, and faith. We do not now discuss the differences between reason and faith, undertake to define the domain of each, but it is necessary to say that even in the ordinary affairs of life, we are governed far more by what we believe than what we know, by faith and analogy than by reason. The age of reason of the French Revolution taught, we know what a folly it is to enthrone reason by itself as supreme. Reason is at fault when it deals with the infinite. There we must revere and believe. Notwithstanding the calamities of the virtuous, the miseries of the deserving, the prosperity of tyrants, and the murder of martyrs, we must believe there is a wise, just, merciful, and loving God, and intelligence and providence supreme over all, and caring for the minutest things and events. If faith is a necessity to man, woe to him who believes nothing. Well, get yourself some food, Raisin. We'll send you wrong one. We'll send you Saunders with some, and y'all can gobble corn together the long way. How's that sound? Oh boy. We believe that the soul of another is of a certain nature and possesses certain qualities, that he is generous and honest, or penurious and knavish, that she is virtuous and amiable, or vicious and ill-tempered. From the countenance alone, from little more than a glimpse of it, without the means of knowing, we venture our fortune on the signature of a man on the other side of the world, whom we never saw, upon the belief that he is honest and trustworthy. We believe that the occurrences have taken place upon the assertions of others. We believe that one will act upon another, and in the reality of a multitude of other phenomena that reason cannot explain. But we ought not believe what reason authoritatively denies, that at which the sense of right revolts, that which is absurd or contradictory or at issue with experience or science, or that which degrades the character of the deity and would make him revengeful, malignant, cruel, or unjust. A man's faith is as much his own as his reason is, His freedom consists as much in his faith being free as in his will being uncontrolled by power. All the priests and augurs of Rome or Greece had not the right to require Cicero or Socrates to believe in the absurd mythology of the vulgar. All the imams or of Mohammedanism have not the right to require a pagan to believe that Gabriel dictated the Quran to the prophet. All the Brahmins that ever lived, if assembled in one conclave like the cardinals, could not gain a right to compel a single human being to believe in the Hindu cosmogony. No man or body, bears, of men can be infallible and authorized to decide what other men shall believe as to any tenet of faith, except to those who first receive it. Every religion and the truth of all inspired writings depend on human testimony and internal evidence to be judged of by reason and the wise analogies of faith. Each man must necessarily have the right to judge of their truth for himself, because no one man can have any higher or better right to judge than another of equal information and intelligence. Domitian claimed to be the Lord God, and statues and images of him in silver and gold were found throughout the known world. He claimed to be regarded as the God of all men, and according to Suetonius, began his letters thus: "Our Lord and God commands that it should be done so and so," and formally decreed that no one should address him otherwise, either in writing or by word of mouth. Alfurius Sura, the philosopher, who was his chief delator, accusing those who refused to recognize his divinity, however much he may have believed in that divinity, had not the right to demand that a single Christian in Rome or the provinces should do the same. Reason is far from being the only guide in morals or in political science. Love or loving kindness must keep it company to exclude fanaticism, intolerance, and persecution, to all of which immorality to ascetic and extreme political principles invariably lead. Excuse me. We must also have faith in ourselves and in our fellows as the people, or we shall be easily discouraged by reverses, and our ardor cooled by obstacles. We must not listen to reason alone. Force comes more from faith and love, and it is by the aid of these that man scales the loftiest heights of morality, or becomes the savior and redeemer of a people. Reason must hold the helm, but these supply the motive power. They are the wings of the soul. Enthusiasm is generally unreasoning, and without it, and love and faith, there would have been no Rainsy or Tell or Sidney or any other of the great patriots whose names are immortal. If the deity had been merely and only all wise and almighty, he would never have created the universe. Oh, shit. What o'clock? This topic came up in Discord. I've always been kind of curious about Freemasonry. And then I started, well, going down the rabbit holes. Freemasonry was brought up a lot. It was also a lot of the word Luciferianism thrown in with it a lot. So I just trying to better understand how these people think, and I know I'm not getting the whole story, because they'll never tell us the truth. It's kind of like our FBI saying they're not spying on us, and we know damn good and well they are indeed spying on us. Yeah, some people just can't handle the truth, so they end up going out and unaliving somebody because the truth hurt their feelings. Mm. Mm. Ah. I know I hurt my own feelings. Every time I look in the mirror, it's like, ah, what the hell? And then there's a lot of this because I'm realizing I'm an ugly bitch. And then I dip potato chip today because you know you gotta get your dips in. Yeah, pot o'clock sounds like a good idea, Herbert. Rosicrucians, creator of the Hellfire Club. Got a lot of them in your family tree. See, I thought it was just Rosicrucians. I didn't know there were. I mean, just adding on these words. It's like a democratic socialist. You're still a socialist at the end of the fucking day. You're just adding a fucking word onto it to complicate things. Metal. Yeah.
Dip, dip, potato chip.
I am justice. I am vengeance. I am dip dip potato chip. It's pot o'clock, y'all. Those that are drinking, drink up, bitches. Oh, fuck yeah. Ooh wee, yo. I tell this. Man. Good stuff. Sir, I already have my own little organization. It's just not out there. It is, but it isn't. It's bringers of chaos. And it's been my thing. I'm sure it was probably done before me. I know it's in Final Fantasy. Reference to bringers. It's references shit. But yeah, I rep the BOC, bringers of chaos. Some would say it's the big old cock, but yeah. Oh man. Shit really opens up the lungs, I tell you what. Alright. Let's get back to it. It is genius that gets power. And its prime lieutenants are force and wisdom. The unruliest of men bend before the leader that has the sense to see and the will to do. It is genius that rules with godlike power, that unveils with its counselors the hidden human mysteries, cuts asunder with its word the huge knots, and builds up with its word the crumbled ruins. At its glance fall down the senseless idols whose altars have been on all the high places and in all the sacred groves. Dishonesty and imbecility stand abashed before it. Its single yea or nay revokes the wrongs of ages, and is heard among the future generations. Its power is immense, because its wisdom is immense. Genius is the son of the political sphere. Force and wisdom, its ministers, are the orbs that carry its light into darkness, and to answer it with their solid reflecting truth. Development is symbolized by the use of the mallet and chisel. The development of the energies and intellect of the individual and the people. Genius may place itself at the head of an unintellectual, uneducated, unenergetic nation, but in a free country to cultivate the intellect of those who elect is the only mode of securing intellect and genius for rulers. The world is seldom ruled by the great spirits, except after dissolution and new birth in periods of transition and convolution. The long parliaments, the Robespierres and merits, and the semi-respectabilities of intellect to often hold the reins of power. Cromwells and Napoleons come later, after Marius and Sulla and Cicero, the rhetorician. Caesar, the great intellect, is often too sharp for the granite of this life. Legislators may be very ordinary men, for legislation is very ordinary work. It is but the final issue of a million minds. Excuse me. That's some big freaking words, man. Hold up, I gotta pause this. Like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, some of these words, holy fuck. You always envisioned it's Pidgey the Pegger. Pegger, Pegger. He doesn't acknowledge gender, just sees a hole and goes for it. Pidgey. Why don't you show 'em what you got? Packing too. That's all I am. That ain't a strap on either. That is all natural, y'all. The power of the purse or the sword compared to that of the spirit is poor and contemptible. As to lands, you may have agrarian laws and equal partition, but a man's intellect is all his own, held direct from God, an inalienable fief, in a state of land, especially one held on condition of feudal service. Okay. It is the most potent of weapons in the hands of a paladin. If the people comprehend force in the physical sense, how much more do they reverence the intellectual? Ask Hildebrand or Luther or Loyola. They fall prostrate before it, as before an idol. The mastery of mind over mind is the only conquest worth having. The other injures both and dissolves at a breath. Rude as it is, the great cable falls down and snaps at last. But this dimly resembles the dominion of the Creator. It does not need a subject like that of Peter the Hermit. If the stream be but bright and strong, it will sweep like a spring tide to the popular heart. Not in word only, but in intellectual act lies the fascination. It is the homage to the invisible. This power, knotted with love, is the golden chain let down into the well of truth, or the invisible chain that binds the ranks of mankind together. Influence of man over man is a law of nature, whether it be by a great estate in land or in intellect. It may mean slavery, a deference to the eminent human judgment. Society hangs spiritually together, like the revolving spheres above. The free country in which intellect and genius govern will endure. Where they serve and other influences govern, the nation life is short. All the nations that have tried to govern themselves by their smallest, by the incapables, or merely respectables, have come to naught. Constitutions and laws without genius and intellect to govern will not prevent decay. In that case, they have the dry rot, and the life dies out of them by degrees. To give a nation the franchise of the intellect is the only sure mode of perpetuating freedom. This will compel exertion and generous care for the people from those on the higher seats, and honorable and intelligent allegiances from those below. Then political public life will protect all men from self-absent, insensual pursuits from vulgar acts and low greed, by giving the noble ambition of just imperial rule. To elevate the people by teaching loving kindness and wisdom, with power to have who teaches best, and so to develop the free state from the rough ashlar. This is the great labor in which Masonry desires to lend a helping hand. Just make words up funnier. All of us should labor in building up the great monument of a nation, the holy house of the temple. The cardinal virtues must not be partitioned among men, becoming the exclusive property of some, like the common crafts. All are apprenticed to the partners, duty and honor. Masonry is a march and a struggle toward the light. For the individual as well as the nation, light is virtue, manliness, intelligence, liberty. Tyranny over the soul or body is darkness. The freest people, like the freest man, is always in danger of relapsing into servitude. Wars are almost always fatal to republics. They create tyrants and consolidate their power. They spring, for the most part, from evil counsels. When the small and the base are entrusted with power, legislation and administration become but two parallel series of errors and blunders, ending in war, calamity, and the necessity for a tyrant. When the nation feels its feet sliding backwards as if it walked on the ice, the time has come for a supreme effort. The magnificent tyrants of the past are but the types of those of the future. Men and nations will always sell themselves into slavery to gratify their passions and obtain revenge. The tyrant's plea, necessity, is always available, and the tyrant, once in power, the necessity of providing for his safety makes him savage. Religion is a power, and he must control that. Independent, its sanctuaries might rebel. Then it becomes unlawful for the people to worship God in their own way. And the old spiritual despotism revive. Men must believe as power wills or die. And even if they may believe as they will, all they have, lands, houses, body, and soul, are stamped with the royal brand. I am the state, said Louis XIV to his peasants. The very shirts on your backs are mine, and I can take them if I will. Boy, that kind of sounds like some of these platforms. And dynasties so established endure, like that of the Caesars of Rome, of the Caesars of Constantinople, of the Caliphs, and the Stuarts, and the Spaniards, the Goths, the Valios, until the race wears out, and ends with lunatics and idiots who still rule. Wow, it kind of sounds like a political system right now. Got lunatics and idiots in charge. There is no concord among men to end the horrible bondage. The state falls inwardly as well as by the outward blows of the incoherent elements, the furious human passions, the sleeping human indolence, the stolid human ignorance, the rivalry of human castes are as good for the kings as the sword of the paladins. The worshippers have all bowed so long to the old idol that they cannot go into the streets and choose another grand lama. And so the effete state floats on down the puddled stream of time until the tempest or the tidal sea discovers that the worm has consumed its strength and it crumbles into oblivion. Big freaking words. Civil and religious freedom must go hand in hand, and persecution matures them both. A people content with the thoughts made for them by the priest of a church will be content with royalty by divine right. The church and the throne mutually sustaining each other. They will smother schisms and reap infidelity and indifference. And while the battle for freedom goes on around them, they will only sink the more apathetically into servitude and a deep trance, perhaps occasionally interrupted by furious fits of frenzy, followed by helpless exhaustion. Despotism is not difficult in any land that has only known one master from its childhood. But there is no harder problem than to perfect and perpetuate free government by the people themselves. For it is not one king that is needed. All must be kings. It is easy to set up Massanio? Fucking A. That in a few days he may fall lower than before. But free government grows slowly, like the individual human faculties, and like the forest trees from the inner heart outward. Liberty is not only the common birthright, but it is lost as well by non-user as by misuser. It depends far more on the universal effort than any other human property. It has no single shrine or holy well of pilgrimage for the nation, for its waters should burst out freely from the whole soil. The free popular power is one that is only known in its strength in the hour of adversity. For all its trials, sacrifices, and expectations are its own. It is trained to think for itself and also to act for itself. When the enslaved people prostrate themselves in the dust before the hurricane, like the alarmed beast on the field, the free people stand erect before it, in all the strength of unity, in self-reliance and mutual reliance, with effrontery against all but the visible hand of God. It is neither cast down by calamity nor elated by success. This vast power of endurance, of forbearance, of patience, and of performance is only acquired by continual exercise of all the functions, like the healthful physical human vigor, like the individual moral vigor. And the maxim is no less true than old, that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. It is curious to observe the universal pretext by which the tyrants of all times take away the national liberties. It is stated in the statutes of Edward II that the justices and the sheriff should no longer be elected by the people on account of the riots and dissensions which had arisen. The same reason was given long before for the suppression of popular election of the bishops. And there is a witness to this untruth in the yet older times, when Rome lost her freedom and her indignant citizens declared that tumultuous liberty is better than disgraceful tranquility. With compasses and scale, we can trace all the figures used in the mathematics of planes, or in what are called geometry and trigonometry, two words that are themselves deficient in meaning. Geometry, which the letter G in most lodges is said to signify means, measurements of land or the earth, or surveying, and trigonometry, the measurement of triangles or figures with three sides or angles. The latter is by far the most appropriate name for the science intended to the expression by the word geometry. Neither is of a meaning sufficiently wide, for although the vast surveys of great spaces of the earth's surface and of coasts, by which shipwreck and calamity to mariners are avoided, are effected by means of triangulation. Though it was by the same method that the French astronomers measured a degree of latitude and so established a scale of measures on an immutable basis. Though it is by means of the immense triangle that has for its base a line drawn in imagination between the place of the earth now and its place 6 months hence in space, and for its apex a planet or star, that the distance of Jupiter or Sirius from the earth is ascertained, and though there is a triangle still more vast, its base extending either way from us, with and past the horizon into immensity, and its apex indefinitely distant above us, to which corresponds a similar infinite triangle below, what is above equaling what is below, immensity equaling immensity. Yet the science of numbers, to which Pythagoras attached so much importance, and whose mysteries are found everywhere in the ancient religions, and most of all in the Kabbalah and in the Bible, is not sufficiently expressed by either the word geometry or the word trigonometry. For that science includes these with arithmetic and also algebra, logarithms, integral, and differential. Calculus, and by means of it are worked out the great problems of astronomy, of the laws of the stars. Damn. How many pages have I got? Virtue is but heroic bravery, to do the thing thought to be true, in spite of all enemies of flesh or spirit, in despite of all temptations or menaces. Man is accountable for the uprightness of his doctrine, but not for the rightness of it. Devout enthusiasm is far easier I'm bucking. Oh, excuse me. Far easier than a good action. Sorry. I lost where I was. I blinked for a second and opened my eyes and completely lost where I was. Then a good action. There we go. The end of thought is action. The sole purpose of religion is an ethic. Theory in political science is worthless, except for the purpose of being realized in practice. In every credo, religious or political, as in the soul of man, there are two regions, the dialectic and the ethic. And it is only when the two are harmoniously blended that a perfect discipline is evolved. There are men who dialectically are Christians, as there are a multitude who dialectically are Masons, and yet who are ethically infidels, as these are ethically of the profane. In the strictest sense, intellectual believers but practical atheists, men who will write you evidences in perfect faith in their logic, but cannot carry out the Christian or Masonic doctrine, owing to the strength skeptics. Wait. Owing to the strength or weaknesses, goddamn, of the flesh. On the other hand, there are many dialectical skeptics, but ethical believers, as there are many Masons who have never undergone initiation. And as ethics are the end of and purpose of religion, so are ethical believers the most worthy. He who does right is better than he who thinks right. Hey, what's up, Drunk Iron Man? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do 2 chapters. These are long chapters, man. But you must not act upon the hypothesis that all men are hypocrites, whose conduct does not square with their sentiments. No vice is more rare, for no task is more difficult than systematic hypocrisy. When the demagogue becomes a usurper, it does not follow that he was all the time a hypocrite. Shallow men only so judge of others. The truth is that creed has, in general, very little influence on the conduct in religion on that of the individual, in politics on that of party. As a general thing, the Mohammedan in the Orient is far more honest and trustworthy than the Christian. A gospel of love in the mouth is an avatar of persecution in the heart. Men who believe in eternal damnation and a literal sea of fire and brimstone incur the certainty of it according to their creed, on the slightest temptation of appetite or passion. Predestination insists on the necessity of good works. In Masonry, at the least flow of passion, one speaks ill of another behind his back. And so far from the brotherhood of blue masonry being real, and the solemn pledge contained in the use of the word brother being complied with, extraordinary pains are taken to show that masonry is a sort of abstraction. Which scorns to interfere in worldly matters. The rule may be regarded as universal, that were there in a choice to be made. A Mason will give his vote and influence in politics and business to the less qualified profane in preference to the better qualified Mason. One will take an oath to oppose any unlawful usurpation of power, and then become the ready and even eager instrument of a usurper. Another will kill one brother, and then play toward him the part of Judas Iscariot. or strike him as Joab did Abner. Excuse me. Under the fifth rib, with a lie whose authorship is not to be traced. Masonry does not change human nature. It cannot make honest men out of born knaves. While you are still engaged in preparation and in accumulating principles for future use, do not forget the words of the Apostle James. Oh, excuse me. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. Oh man. I think I gotta find. Cat started biting my foot. And now I've lost my spot. Okay, we'll just start. We'll just start from back here. Oh, excuse me. See, I'm not sure where. I thought I said glass was the last word. Guess not. For if any be a hearer of the word, not a doer, he is like to behold his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself and goeth away, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his work. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. Faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being an abstraction. A man is justified by works and by not. Oh, shit, sorry. Faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being an abstraction. A man is justified by works and not by faith only. The devils believe and tremble. As the body without the heart is dead, so is faith without works. In political science, also free governments are erected and free constitutions framed upon some simple and intelligible theory. Upon whatever theory they are based, no sound conclusion. Oh, damn it. I lost where I was again. Upon whatever theory they are based, no sound conclusion is to be reached except by carrying the theory out without flinching, both in argument or constitutional questions. And in practice, Yeah, this chapter needs to hurry up and finish. Sorry. Shrink from the true theory through timidity, or wander from it through want of the logical faculty, or transgress against it through passion, or on the plea of necessity or expediency, and you have the denial of invasion. Of right. Laws that offend against first principles, usurpation of illegal powers, or abnegation and abdication of legitimate authority. Do not forget either that as the showy, superficial, impudent, self-conceited will almost always be preferred, even in utmost stress of danger and calamity of the state, to the man of solid learning, large intellect, and Catholic sympathies, because he is nearer the common popular. Oh, shit, excuse me. And legislative level. So the highest truth is not acceptable to the mass of mankind. When Solon was asked if he had given his countrymen the best laws, he answered, "The best they are capable of receiving." This is one of the profoundest utterances on record, and yet, like all great truth, so simple as to be rarely comprehended. It contains the whole philosophy of history. It utters a truth which, had it been recognized, would have saved men very Fuck. Oh, man. It is so simple as to rarely comprehended. It contains the whole philosophy of history, and as a truth which, had it been recognized, would have saved men an immensity of vain, idle disputes, and have led them into the clearer paths of knowledge in the past. It means this, that all the truths are truths of period, and not truths for eternity. That whatever great fact has had strength and vanity enough to make itself real, whether of religion, moral, government, or of whatever else, a defined place in this world has been a truth for the time, and as good as men were capable of receiving. So too with great men, the intellect and capacity of a people has a single measure, that of the great men whom Providence gives it, and the whom it receives. There have always been men too great for their time or their people. Every people makes such men only its idols, as its people make such men only its idols as it is capable of comprehending. To impose ideal truth or law upon an incapable and merely real man must ever be a vain and empty speculation. The laws simply govern in this as they do in regard to men who are put at the head. We do not know as yet what qualifications the sheep insist on in a leader. With men who are too high intellectually, the mass have as little sympathy as they have with the stars. When Burke, the wisest statesman England ever had, rose to speak, the House of Commons was depopulated as upon an agreed signal. There is as little sympathy between the mass and the highest truths. The highest truth being incomprehensible to the man of realities, as the highest man is, and largely above his level, will be a great unreality and falsehood to an unintellectual man. The profoundest doctrines of Christianity and philosophy would be mere jargon and babble to a Potawatomi Indian. The popular explanations of the symbols of Masonry are fitting for the multitude that have sowed into the temples, being fully up to the level. Here's oppressed chaos. Up to the level of their capacity. Catholicism was a vital truth in its earliest ages, but it became obsolete, and Protestantism arose, flourished, and deteriorated. The doctrines of Zoroaster were the best which the ancient Persians were fitted to receive. Those of Confucius were fitted for the Chinese, those of Muhammad for the idolatrous Arabs of his age. Each was truth for the time. Each was a gospel preached by a reformer. And if any man are so little fortunate as to remain content therewith, when others have attained as higher truth, it is their misfortune and not their fault. They are to be pitied for it and not prosecuted. Do not expect easily to convince men of the truth, or to lead them to think aright. The subtle human intellect can weave its mists over even the clearest vision. Remember that it is eccentric enough to ask anonymity from a jury, but to ask it from any large number of men on any point of political faith is amazing. You can hardly get two men in any Congress or convention to agree. Nay, you can rarely get one to agree with himself. The political church, which chances to be supreme anywhere, has an indefinite number of tongues. How then can we expect men to agree as to matter beyond the cognizance of the senses? How can we compass the infinite and the invisible with any chain of evidence? Ask the small sea waves what they murmur among the pebbles. How many of those words that come from the invisible shore are lost, like the birds in the long passage? How vainly do we strain the eyes across the long infinite? We must be content as the children are with the pebbles that have been stranded since it has forbidden us to explore the hidden depths. Hi, what's up, Nella Wolf? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well, sir. The yellow craft is especially taught by this not to become wise in his own conceit. Pride in unsound theories is worse than ignorance. Humility becomes a mason. Take some quiet, sober moment of life and add together the two ideas of pride in man. Behold him, creature of a span, stalking through infinite space in all the grandeur of littleness, perched on a speck of the universe. Ever wind of heaven strikes into his blood the coldness of death. His soul floats away from his body like the melody from the string. Day and night, like dusk on the wheel, he has rolled along the heavens through a labyrinth of worlds, and all the creations of God are flaming on every side, further than even his imagination can reach. Is this a creature to make for himself a crown of glory, to deny his own flesh, to mock at his fellow, sprung with him from the dust, to which both will soon return? Does the proud man not err? Does he not suffer? Does he not die? When the reason is he never stops short by difficulties. When he acts, does he never succumb to the temptation of pleasure? When he lives, is he free from pain? Do the diseases not claim him as their prey? When he dies, can he escape the common grave? Pride is not the heritage of man. Humility should dwell with frailty and atone for ignorance, error, and imperfection. Neither should the mason be over anxious for office and honor. However, certainly he may feel that he has the capacity to serve the state. He should neither seek nor spurn honor. It is good to enjoy the blessings of fortune. It is better to submit without a pang to their loss. The greatest deeds are not done in the glare of light and before the eyes of the populace. He whom God has gifted with a love of retirement possesses, as it were, an additional sense. And among the vast and noble scenes of nature, we find the balm for the wounds we have received among the pitiful shifts of policy. For the attachment to solitude is the surest preservative for the ills of life. But resignation is the more noble in proportion as it is the less passive. Retirement is only a morbid selfishness. If it prohibit exertions for others, as it is only dignified and noble, when it is the shade whence the oracles issue that are the instruct man, or are to instruct mankind. The retirement of this nature is the very sole seclusion which a good and wise man will covet or command. The very philosophy which makes such a man covet the quiet will make him eschew the inutility of the hermitage. Very little praiseworthy would lord haymakers and ploughmen. He had looked with an indifferent eye upon a profligate minister and a venal parliament. Very little interest would have attached to his beans and vetches. If beans and veggies had caused him to forget that if he was happier on a farm, he could be more useful in a senate, and made him forego in the sphere of a bailiff all care for re-entering that of a legislator. Remember also that there is an education which quickens the intellect and leaves the heart hollower or harder than before. There are ethical lessons in the laws of the heavenly bodies, in the properties of earthly elements, in geometry, chemistry, geology, and all the material sciences. Things are symbols of truths. Properties are symbols of truths. Science, not teaching moral and spiritual truths, is dead and dry, of little more real value than to commit to the memory of a long row of unconnected dates, or to the names of bugs or butterflies. Holy fuck. Christianity, it is said, begins from the burning of the false gods by the people themselves. Education begins with the burning of our intellectual and moral idols, our prejudices, notions, conceits, our worthless or ignoble purposes. Especially, it is necessary to shake off the love of worldly gain. With freedom comes the longing for worldly advancement. In that race, men are ever failing, raising, running, and failing again. The lust for wealth and the abject dread of poverty delve the furrows on many a noble brow. The gambler grows old as he watches the chances. Lawful hazard drives youth away before its time, and this youth draws heavy bills of exchange on age. Men live like the engines at high pressure. 100 years and 100 months, the ledger becomes the Bible, and the book of the morning prayer. Hence flow overreaching and sharp practice, heartless traffic, in which the capitalist buys profit with the lives of the laborers, speculations that coin a nation's agonies into wealth, and all the other devilish energy of Mammon. This, a greed for office, are the two columns at the entrance up to the temple of Moloch. It is doubtful whether the latter, blossoming in falsehood, trickery, and fraud, is not even more pernicious than the former. At all events, they are twins, and fitly mated, and as either gains control of the unfortunate subject, his soul withers away and decays, and at last dies out. The souls of the half, the human race, leave them long before they die. Two greeds are twin plagues of the leprosy, and make the man unclean. And whenever they break out, they spread until they cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his foot. Even the raw flesh of the heart becomes unclean with it. Alexander of Macedon has left a saying behind him which has survived his conquest. Nothing is nobler than work. Work only can keep even kings respectable. And when a king is a king indeed, it is an honorable office to give tone to the manners and morals of a nation, to set the example of virtuous conduct and restore in spirit the old schools of chivalry, in which the young manhood may be nurtured to real greatness. Work and wages will go together in men's minds. In the most royal institutions, we must ever come to the idea of real work. The rest that follows labor should be sweeter than the rest which follows rest. Let no fellow craft imagine that the work of the lowly and uninfluential is not worth the doing. There is no legal limit to the possible influences of a good deed, or a wise word, or a generous effort. Nothing is really small. Whoever is open to the deep penetration of nature knows this. Although indeed no absolute satisfaction may be vouchsafed to philosophy, any more in circumscribing the cause than in limiting the effect, the man of thought and contemplation falls into unfathomable ecstasies in view of all the decompositions of forces resulting in unity. All works for all. Destruction is not annihilation, but regeneration. Algebra applies to the clouds. The radiance of the star benefits the rose. No thinker would dare to say that the perfume of the hawthorn is useless to the constellations. Who, then, can calculate the path of molecule? How do we know that the creations of worlds are not determined by the fall of grains of sand? Who then understands the reciprocal flow and ebb of the grains of sand? Who then understands the reciprocal flow and ebb of... Well, I already read that. Fuck. Flow and ebb of the infinitely great and the infinitely small, the echoing of causes in the abysses of beginning and the avalanches of creation. A flesh worm is of account. The small is great. The great is small. All is in equilibrium in necessity. What's up, Grave Digger? Welcome to the stream. Oh, my God. There are marvelous relations between beings and things in the inexhaustible pole. From sun to grub, there is no scorn. All need each other. Light does not carry terrestrial perfumes into the azure depths without knowing what it does with them. Night distributes the stellar essence to the sleeping plants. Every bird which flies has the thread of the infinite in its claw. Germination includes the hatching of a meteor, and the tap of a swallow's bill breaking the egg, and it leads forward the birth of an earthworm and the advent of a Socrates. Where the telescope ends, the microscope begins. Which of them the grander view? A bit of mold is a pleiad of flowers. A nebula is an anthill of stars. There is the same and still more wonderful interpretation between the things of the intellect and the things of matter. Elements and principles are mingled, combined, espoused, multiplied on one by another to such a degree as to bring the material world and the moral world into the same light. Phenomena are perpetually folded back upon themselves. In the vast cosmical changes, the universal life comes and goes in unknown quantities, enveloping all in the invisible mystery of the emanations, losing no dream from no single sleep, sowing an animalcule here, crumbling a star there, oscillating and winding in and invisible, dissolving all save that point without length, breadth, or thickness, the myself, reducing everything to the soul atom, making everything blossom into God, entangling all activities from the highest to the lowest in the obscurity of the dizzying mechanism, hanging the flight of an insect upon the movement of the earth, subordinating, perhaps, if only by the identity of the law, the eccentric evolutions of the comet in a firmament to the whirlings of the infusoria in the drop of water. A mechanism made of a mind, the first motor of which is the gnat, and its last wheel the zodiac. Man. A peasant boy guiding Blucher, guiding Blucher by the right one of two roads, the other being impassable for artillery, enables him to reach Waterloo in time to save Wellington from a defeat that would have been a rout, and so enables the kings to imprison Napoleon on a barren rock in mid-ocean. An unfaithful smith, by the slovenly shoeing of a horse, causes his lameness, and he stumbling, the career of his world-conquering rider ends, and the destinies to end his game of chess before leading him to the block. And meanwhile, the usurper dies, and the prisoner reascends the throne. An unskillful workman repairs the compass, or malice or stupidity disarranges it. The ship mistakes her course, the waves swallow a Caesar, and a new chapter is written in the history of a world. What we call accident is but the adamantine chain of indissoluble connection between all created things. The locust hatched in the Arabian sands, the small worm that destroys the cotton boll, one making famine in the Orient, the other closing the mills and starving the workmen and their children in the Occident. With riots and massacres are as much the ministers of God as the earthquakes. And the fate of nations depends more on them than on the intellect of its kings and legislators. A civil war in America will end in shaking the world, and that war may be caused by the vote of some ignorant prize fighter or crazed fanatic in a city or in a congress, or of some stupid boor in an obscure country parish. The electricity of universal sympathy, of action and reaction, pervades everything. The planets and the motes and the sunbeam. Faust, with his types, or Luther, with his sermons, worked greater results than Alexander or Hannibal. A single thought sometimes suffices to overturn a dynasty. A silly song did more to unseat James II than the acquittal of the bishops. Oh, please be it. Oh, there's more. Voltaire, Condorcet, and Rousseau uttered words that will ring in change and revolutions throughout all the ages. Remember that though life is short, thought and the influences of what we do or say are immortal, and that no calculus has yet pretended to ascertain the law of proportion between cause and effect. The hammer of an English blacksmith smithing down an insolent official led to a rebellion which came near being a revolution. The word well spoken, the deed fitly done, even by the feeblest or humblest, cannot help but have their effect. More or less, the effects is inevitable and eternal. The echoes of the greatest deeds may die away like the echoes of a cry among the cliffs, and what has been done seem to the human judgment to have been without result. The unconsidered act of the poorest of men may fire the train that leads to the subterranean mine, and an empire be rent by the explosion. The power of a free people is often at the disposal of a single and seemingly an unimportant individual. A terrible and truthful power. For such a people feel with one heart, and therefore can lift up their myriad arms for a single blow. And again, there is no guaranteed scale for the measurement of the influences of different intellects upon the popular mind. Peter the Hermit held no office, yet what a work he wrought. From the political point of view, there is but a single principle: the sovereignty of man over himself. The sovereignty of oneself over oneself is called liberty. Shit, I need to sneeze. I got it. Wrong mouse. Fucking A. Ah! Ah! Where two or several of these sovereignties associate, the state begins. But in this association, there is no abdication. Each sovereignty parts with a certain portion of itself to form the common right. That portion is the same for all. There is equal contribution by all to the joint sovereignty. This identity of concession, which each makes to all, is equality. There is equal contribution by all to the joint sovereignty. This identity of concession, which each makes to all, is equality. The common right is nothing more or less than the protection of all, pouring its rays on each. This protection of each by all is fraternity. Liberty is the summit. Equality is the base. Equality is not all vegetation on a level. A society of big spears of grass and stunted oaks, a neighborhood of jealousies emasculating each other. It is civilly all aptitudes having equal opportunity politically, all votes having equal weight religiously, all consciousness having equal rights. Equality has an organ, gratuitous and obligatory instruction. We must begin with the right to the alphabet, primary school obligatory upon all, the higher school offered to all. Such is the law. From the same school for all springs equal society. Instruction, light, all come from light, and all returns to it. We must learn the thoughts of the common people. If we would be wise and do any good work, we must look at men, not so much for what fortune has given to them, for with her blind old eyes, as for the gifts nature has brought in her lap, and for the use that has been made of them. We profess to be equal in a church, and in the lodge. We shall be equal in the sight of God when he judges the earth. We may well sit on the pavement together here in communion and conference for the few brief moments that constitutes life. The democratic government undoubtedly has its defects because it is made and administered by men and not by the wise gods. It cannot be concise and sharp like the despotic. When its ire is aroused, it develops its latent strength, and the sturdiest rebel trembles. But its habitual domestic rule is tolerant, patient, and indecisive. Men are brought together, first to differ, and then to agree. Affirmation, negation, discussion, solution. These are the means of attaining truth. Often the enemy will be at the gates before the babble of the disturbers is drowned in the chorus of consent. In the legislative office, deliberation will often defeat decision. Liberty can play the fool like the tyrants. Refined society requires greater minuteness of regulation. And the steps of all advancing states are more and more to be picked among the old rubbish and the new materials. The difficulty lies in discovering the right path through the chaos of confusion. The adjustment of mutual rights and wrongs is also more difficult in democracies. We do not see and estimate the relative importance of objects so easily and clearly from the level of the waving land as from the elevation of a lone peak towering above the plain, for each looks through his own mist. Hey, what's up, DJ Ronnie G? How you doing, sir? Whew. Oh my goodness. Page 59 is what I'm on. I can't go on reading. It's still going. Oh my god. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, but that gets boring. Oh. that might be interesting. Ah. Oh. I as long as it's got other choices, I don't care. I wouldn't mind getting a Morgan Freeman read through, but I might get in trouble for that. Ugh. Abject dependence on constituents also is too common. It is as miserable a thing as abject dependence on a minister or the favorite of a tyrant. It is rare to find a man who could speak out the simple truth that is in him, honestly and frankly, without fear, favor, or affection, either to emperor or people. Got a voice changer. Got a voice changer?
How dare you?
How dare you? Pidgey. Get her in check.
Giggity, 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 goo. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, dang, dang, walla, walla, bing, bang. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, dang, dang, walla, walla, bing, bang.
Moreover, in assemblies of men, faith in each other is almost always wanting, unless a terrible pressure of calamity or danger from without produces cohesion. Hence, the constructive power of such assemblies is generally deficient. The chief triumphs of modern days in Europe have been in pulling down and obliterating, not in building up, but repeal is not reform. Time must bring with him the restorer and rebuilder. Speech also is grossly abused in republics, and if the use of speech be glorious, its abuse is the most villainous of vices. Rhetoric, Plato says, is the art of ruling the minds of men, but in democracies it is too common to hide thought in words, to overlay it, to babble nonsense. The gleams and glitters of intellectual soap and water bubbles are mistaken for the rainbow glories of genius. The worthless pyrites is continually mistaken for gold. Even intellect condensed condescends to intellectual jugglery, balancing thoughts as a juggler balances pipes on his chin. We're gonna read to here and then I'm gonna wrap things up. I can't keep reading. This shit's kicking my ass, y'all. I'll pick up and just carry on from there. And next week. I'm sorry. I tried to make it through. It feels like I've been eating pussy for like an hour. My tongue is going numb. I'm eventually gonna be stumbling over my own words. I apologize. But yeah, champ. Hey, I gotta make sure she gotta get off. And that's something every man should strive for when they're banging them out. Gotta make sure she get off before you get off. The proper gentlemanly thing to do. But when you get off, you come in her face like a proper gentleman. That's how you do it. And on that note, I give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Your continued support has been greatly appreciated. Thank you to everybody that's still subscribed. Thank you to everybody that just recently subscribed. I do wholeheartedly appreciate y'all's continued support. Everybody lurking, everybody actively in the chat. We got DJ Ronnie G. Make sure to check him out, as well as Nella Wolf. Make sure to check out Drunk Iron Man here on the YouTube and on the Twitch. Make sure to check out Forno Raisin. Make sure to check out Crystal Kitten and Batty Commander. They all put out some amazing stuff here on the YouTube. I will be back later on with some more Valheim. So I hope to see you there. Gravedigger, Riggs Jr., Oakensteel, Tom Laundry, Results Oriented, Jackal Hunter, Mr. Hammy 4-Speed. It's a pleasure seeing y'all as usual. Again, I'll be back with some Valheim here in a little bit. I'm gonna go smoke out with my uncle, and yeah, I'll be back with some games. Yes, use the Peggy. Yes, break it in. Thank you. Haha. Again, thank you to everybody. Chaos, it's Mr. Kia 6-Speed. Yeah, Kia 6-Speed. Anyways, until next time, y'all have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever the hell from. I'm out this biatch. Peace.
Don't touch me there. My no square. Don't touch me there. My no square. No, don't touch me there. This is my no square. No, don't touch me there. No, my no square. No, don't touch me there. This is my no square. No, don't touch me there. My no square.